Rain hammered against the windows of Marrow Point, a small coastal city in northern Maine where fog clung to the shoreline like a secret that refused to lift. Inside her modest apartment overlooking the harbor, Elara Quinn sat hunched over her laptop, reviewing the quarterly reports for her firm. Numbers had always made sense to her. People never did. At 32, Elara was a senior auditor, the kind who could spot a forged expense, report from a mile away, the kind who kept her emotions locked in neat spreadsheets, where nothing could spill over. She had learned early that control was survival, especially in her family. For 5 years, she had been paying her parents' monthly mortgage of $900, a total of $114,000. Whenever she tried to pull back, the emotional grenades flew. You're ungrateful. You think you're better than us. We sacrificed everything for you. This is the least you can do. Her father, Douglas Quinn, always delivered the sharpest blows. Her mother, Marla, cried on cue, and her older brother, Shay, golden child extraordinaire, played the part of detached spectator, sitting back with folded arms while Elara was guilted into financial submission. Every lie they told her lined up. Douglas' contracting business was struggling. The bank was about to foreclose. If Elara didn't help, they would lose the house. And because Elara was the good child, the responsible one, she paid. Every month, without fail, until the video arrived. It was sent anonymously from an unknown number, a link to a private cloud folder, accompanied only by the message. You deserve to know. Elara hesitated before opening it. She wished she never had. Her parents' dining room was crowded, not with love, but with family Elara hadn't seen in months. Her Aunt Lorraine, her cousin Theo, even Shay, all seated around the table with plates full of roast chicken and wine glasses clinking. She wasn't invited. The video was shaky, filmed from behind a cracked door, but the audio was crystal clear. Douglas's voice boomed first. Of course Elara paid the mortgage again. She always does. Girl's terrified someone won't love her if she stops paying. Laughter erupted. Lorraine chimed in. She's like her mother, pitiful, always desperate to be useful. More laughter. Shay smirked, swirling his beer. She's the family ATM. Only good thing about her. But hey, I'll take it. Another wave of laughter rolled across the room, cruel and loud. Douglas added, I told her the bank called about foreclosure again last week. Didn't even happen, he snorted. She wired me the money within the hour. The laughter became thunder. When Shay wiped tears from his eyes from laughing so hard, something inside Elara cracked cleanly, like a beam being split by a sledgehammer. She watched the full 7-minute video, each second chiseling away illusions she had spent a lifetime clinging to. When it ended, she sat frozen. Then her phone buzzed. A text from Douglas. I disown you. All communication through my attorney. No explanation. No emotion. No humanity. Elara stared at the message in silence. Then she typed a single word. Understood. She hit send. Her hands were steady. The next morning, Elara woke up with the kind of clarity that felt like stepping out of a fog that had lasted decades. She opened her bank accounts. Canceled the automatic mortgage transfer, the one she had set up 63 months earlier, cut off the family phone plan she'd been paying for, revoked access to the joint emergency account she'd been pressured to create in her 20s for the family's safety. She closed every single financial artery her parents and brother were draining. By noon it was done. By evening the storm hit. 27 missed calls from her mother, 15 from Douglas, 9 from Shay. The voicemails came next, dripping with venom. How dare you? You left us to drown. You owe us. We raised you. But Elara simply turned her phone face down and made tea. For the first time in her life, she felt calm. 48 hours later, at 6:12 a.m., her mother called. Elara, the mortgage payment bounced. The bank called. They threatened us. Why would you do this? Why now? Marla sobbed into the receiver, dramatic as ever. Elara's voice was steady. You told me all communication was to go through lawyers. She hung up. Another call immediately came in, this time from Shay. You can't do this, he snapped. Dad's business needs those payments. You're destroying us. Elara resisted the urge to laugh. No, she wasn't destroying anything. She was finally stepping away from a burning building. That evening she drafted a message. No emotion. Just numbers and facts, the only language her family had ever taught her to speak fluently. She sent the email to her entire extended family. Members of Marrow Point's business council, the local homeowners association, and a handful of community leaders who once idolized her father. Attached were a ledger documenting all $114,000 she had paid over 5 years, the full 7-minute video of her family mocking her as their ATM. The fallout was immediate. Her Aunt Lorraine tried calling. Her cousin Theo sent a panicked text. "Elara, what did you do?" Douglas didn't reply at all. He didn't have to. His lawyer did. 2 days later, a thick envelope arrived. A cease and desist letter. Douglas accused her of harassment, defamation, slander, and intentional damage to his business. He demanded she retract her false allegations and issue an apology. Elara exhaled slowly and forwarded the letter to an attorney recommended by a colleague. Isaiah Morrow was calm, methodical, and sharp, the kind of lawyer who could dissect threats in under a minute. After reading everything, he leaned back in his chair. "These are empty claims," he said. "But your father has bigger problems." Elara frowned. "What do you mean?" Isaiah tapped a folder. I dug into his business filings. He's been managing a charitable medical fund for a cancer patient. Mr. Hale. $60,000 disappeared from the account. Elara's stomach dropped. "That's fraud," she whispered. "It's felony embezzlement," Isaiah corrected gently. "And criminal charges are almost guaranteed." The room tilted slightly. Not from fear and from clarity. Her family's dysfunction wasn't accidental. It was a system, a cover, a shield protecting the same abuser they had all sacrificed themselves for. And Elara had finally stepped out of formation. News spread fast in a small coastal town. But the confession spread faster. Elara's cousin Mina approached her first, trembling. "I should have told you years ago," Mina whispered. "When I was 16, your father made comments, touched me where he shouldn't have. Grandma said not to ruin the family name." "I'm so sorry." Elara felt sick. Then her late mother's best friend, Kira Dalton, reached out. "Marla wasn't weak," Kira said. "She was surviving." Douglas controlled everything. The money, the house, her reputation. He did the same to you. She wasn't allowed to defend herself. Piece by piece, the truth assembled itself. Douglas Quinn wasn't just emotionally abusive. He had been a predator, a financial manipulator, a man whose power rested on silence, enforced by fear, obligation, and family loyalty, and Elara had lived her whole life under the illusion that she was the problem. She wasn't. She was the evidence. When the story of the missing $60,000 hit the news, Shay exploded on Facebook with a public rant. "My father didn't steal anything. Elara had access to the accounts. She's trying to destroy us." Except Elara had never touched those accounts. And Shay's rant accidentally confirmed the exact missing amount, that the funds were missing, and that Douglas had control of the accounts. It was everything the Hale family needed to file formal charges. By the end of the week, both Douglas and Shay were officially named in the complaint, and the Quinn legacy, once so polished and admired, began to crumble. The courthouse in Marrow Point was a squat brick building that smelled faintly of old paper and sea salt. On the morning of the arraignment, Elara stood with her hands in her coat pockets, watching reporters swarm the steps like gulls circling a fishing boat. Cameras flashed. Microphones were thrust forward. A few of the reporters recognized her from the email that had rippled through the community like a shockwave. "Elara, any comment on your father's charges? Is it true you uncovered the missing funds? Are you involved in the investigation?" She didn't answer. The truth was simple. She had already said everything that needed saying. Numbers spoke for themselves. The law would too. Inside the courtroom, Douglas sat at the defendant's table wearing a suit that looked a size too tight, as though he had squeezed himself into a version of respectability that no longer fit. His jaw was clenched, his eyes avoiding everyone except the judge. Shay sat beside him with his own attorney, bouncing his leg nervously, the bravado from his online rant nowhere to be found. When the charges were read, felony fraud, embezzlement, falsifying financial documents, a murmur rippled through the gallery. Elara watched from the back, emotionless. She had wasted too many years crying over people who wouldn't hesitate to crush her. As the evidence piled up, the prosecutor introduced the screenshots from Shay's public rant. His own words, bold and damning, confirmed what the town had suspected. Douglas had taken the money, and Shay knew about it. The defense tried to object, but the judge allowed the posts to be admitted. Shay turned pale. During recess, as everyone filed out, Shay stopped in the aisle. For a moment, it looked like he might speak to Elara, but he didn't. He just stared at her with a mixture of panic and resentment before, following his attorney out a side door. Elara left the courthouse in silence. A week later, word spread that Shay had taken a plea deal, offering full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. It wasn't surprising. Shay had always bent toward self-preservation. Loyalty was something he expected, never returned. 2 months after the investigation began, Douglas Quinn was sentenced to 3 years in state prison. Shay received community service and probation. The Quinn name, once spoken reverently by the town's older generation, became a punchline whispered under breaths. The family home, the same house. Elara had poured $114,000 into saving, slipped into foreclosure. Douglas owned it, and with him incarcerated and no payments made, the bank seized it within weeks. Marla moved into a relative's spare bedroom 2 towns over. Lorraine and the others, who had laughed over roast chicken and cheap wine at Elara's expense, went suddenly quiet, eager to distance themselves from the scandal. Elara didn't reach out. None of them did either. One evening, months later, she stood in front of the now-abandoned Quinn house. The yard was overgrown. A bright orange foreclosure notice hung on the door. It should have hurt to see it like that, but instead she felt a strange sense of closure. She had saved a home for people who never saved space for her. The next morning, she focused on her own life for the first time in decades. At work, her diligence and composure during the legal chaos hadn't gone unnoticed. When her firm opened a new internal division focusing on financial ethics reviews, Elara was promoted to senior audit director. Her office overlooked the water. Her staff treated her with respect. Her paycheck reflected her worth, not the reduced version her parents had insisted was all she deserved.